Gruesome Magazine.
Hello, once again. I'm your host, Doc Rodden, and this is Gruesome Magazine, where we review the very latest in streaming and video on-demand horror movies. Each week, my co-hosts, Jeff Mohr, Crystal Cleveland, Dave Dreher, and I will take a look at various spooky, scary, and gory genre offerings. Tonight, we are reviewing, finally, St. Maud. We've been chasing this movie for a year because, well, the past year has been cray-cray. And we finally caught up with it on Hulu, and we're here. And, yeah, before I get to the regular host, I just want to welcome Christopher G. Mohr, award-winning filmmaker, for joining us from H&R because this was going to be an H&R review way back when, and now it's a streaming movie, so it's on Gruesome. But we didn't want to lose Christopher in the process, and Vanessa was going to be here as well, but something came up, so it was going to be a huge happy crossover because Dave's on H&R too. But this is close, and we're
mostly crossover. It's a 3/4 crossover.
Yeah, we're as happy as clams having Christopher here. I don't know. All right,
unhappy.
Let me introduce the rest of the crew. We'll start off with Jeff Mohr. Jeff, how you doing, sir? That's me. Where's Jeff?
I'm here. I'm good.
All right, also joining us is Crystal Cleveland, Living Dead Girl. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm still with this wonky camera stuff.
Yeah, you got some. I don't
know. It looks like I hung them wrong. I don't know why I can't get my.
Plum.
Yeah, you're gonna fall out of your chair. You're gonna slide right out. All right.
What? Wait, it's this way.
Rounding out the crew is the one and only Dave Dreher. How you doing, Dave? We're so happy you're here.
Hey. Got my internet issues fixed. Hopefully you can hear me and see me.
Yes, you took control of that router.
I did.
Oh, and taught it who was boss.
Yes, you did.
Bad router.
It'll never be the same.
Router. All right, well, let's get on to things. We're going to be reviewing the movie St. Maud. It was available streaming on Hulu starting May 13th. As written and directed by Rose Glass. The cast includes, but it's not limited to, Morfydd Clark and Jennifer Ehle. Let's go with that. Synopsis follows a pious nurse who becomes dangerously obsessed with saving the soul of her dying patient. That is oversimplifying things greatly. But it gets the gist across. So what we're going to do is we're going to give our first impressions of the movie. We're going to talk about it a little bit. We're going to dive into spoilers during that time, and then we're going to wrap things up with our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. So let's get things going. And I want to start off with the one and only Christopher G. Mohr as our guest. Sir, what was your first impression of St. Maud?
I thoroughly enjoyed this film. And for it to be, I think Rose Glass is the director, writer. She definitely has an interesting voice. And with this to be her first major feature, I would die to have this as my first feature. It's a well-crafted story with an amazing performance by the main actress, who I didn't realize was the sister in Crawl.
Me neither.
Which is I didn't even realize that. It just shows you how much of a chameleon she is. But I mean, she does an amazing performance, just showing her character sort of unraveling throughout this film. It's a really interesting, visually interesting film that has, it has some interesting themes involving religion and mental illness, and maybe sometimes people's religion may be based on that. So, I think it's a really wonderful performance by the main actress. It's got some really visually interesting scenes that I'm still thinking about now after watching it. There's one scene which I won't mention spoiler wise, but there's one scene that I actually covered my mouth because whoa, did that just happen? But yeah, it's a really interesting story, and I can probably see how some people might have problems with it because it's a little bit of a slow burn at times, but it's a good burn. It's the burn that keeps you warm at night. So I don't know what I meant by that. But yeah, I really enjoyed this, and it's kind of sad that it's taken so long for me to see this until I came on streaming. but thanks to that, as you called it, the cray 2020, kind of threw us off. But yeah, I'm really glad I saw this. I think it's a really wonderful first film by Rose Glass, and it's a little demented in parts, and it definitely takes in a direction that kind of reminds me of. It almost feels like an art film at times, but then it feels like a normal sort of like A24 type film that you'd see. So, but yeah, I loved it. I really enjoyed this film.
Yay! All right, Crystal, you're up next. What was your first impression of Saint Maud?
Okay, so this is a weird movie. I really liked it too. I think it's very interesting as far as the way this character sees religion and understands her religion and takes her religion. She, on the one hand, is deeply religious, and yet she's out having sex with some random guy. So I love that she's got this side that kind of shows she's got some issues in a way with her religion. The story is wonderful. I think that the person that she's taking care of has such a unique character, and then her friends that stay with her are equally unique. I loved the whole aspect of Saint Maud trying to save her. I had no idea where this movie was gonna take me, but I freaking loved the ending. I loved the literally the very, very, very last. Oh, I was like, of course. QQ. But yeah, I think as long as you aren't offended by religious movies going in a odd and weird direction, I think that most people will like it. It's odd. It's kooky. It's not too slow at all. It's got some moments, but it's not boring because she's weird enough to keep it interesting. So, yeah, I enjoyed it.
Enjoyed it. All right. Dave Dreher, sir, this should be exciting. What was your first impression of
Oh,
Saint
no.
Maud?
Oh, no.
Time for some levity.
Yeah.
Time to reel us back in, put us around ourselves.
Again, I'm sure technically, it's beautiful. I hated this fucking movie. It was everything. It's like Hereditary and Midsommar had a baby and then they aborted it and put it on the screen. I really didn't.
Whoa.
I did not care for this at all. Honestly, it reminded me a lot of Carrie in a lot of respects. She was very Sissy Spacek like.
I could see that.
in this thing, but she kind of played the part that Carrie's mother was in this. Yes. So, but again, I really can't. I'm sure technically it's great. This is kind of like those ones with what the hell was that other one that I hated with the purple and pink lights? I can't remember the name of it even.
You and your purple light.
I just watched the Nicolas Cage one. What the hell was it?
How dare you talk bad about Mandy?
Yeah, I watched that again the other night on Joe Bob, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm a stranger in a strange land because this is shit. And so that's kind of how I felt with this. I kind of tuned out on it early. I did like kind of how it ended, and it had a couple kind of cool moments. And I think the lady who played the hospice patient or whatever she was. Was quite phenomenal. I liked the way she would change her looks. She wear the wigs, and she had all kinds of shit going on. She was a player back in the day, and I found that a little bit interesting. But just overall, this just didn't do much for me. I kind of wanted to do myself what she does to herself at the end. No. Yeah. This wasn't me. I think I even texted you one. Doc and said, I need Jeff to explain this to me because I don't know what the fuck's going on.
Or at least burn your eyeballs out.
Yeah, something. So again, take it with a grain of salt. Everyone seems to be fawning all over this thing like it's the second coming. Not for this old school horror fan. No thanks.
Yeah, you might have given us the best description of a movie ever. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Right
I
now.
don't know if best is.
Well, in a different way than what you're taking it. All right.
I don't think
Jeff-
it'll make it to the DVD box.
No. It might take me on mine. I might scribble it on there. Jeff Mohr, you're up next. What was your first impressions of St. Maud?
Well, only Dave would describe a movie as an abortion that's about religious fanatic. Anyway, this could go either. I can see why people don't like this. It is slow, except she was so wacko that I was kind of on edge all the time. She was on camera because I expected her to do something crazy, and sometimes she did. She never quite went as, cray cray as as I thought she was going to go.
No.
Until the end, but for me, this is like I don't know. It's a pretty serious film about a conflict here, and I'm going to steal something Crystal said before the show, I think, or maybe she just said it while she was on the show. But the idea between a mental illness and fanatical religious behavior, spirituality. It's hard to tell what it is. For me, it's about a mental illness with a tragic outcome, but I don't know. Or it could be a spiritual battle between good and evil of some kind, but it certainly seems like the former to me. And it's kind of what happens to people that act like that, is people sort of start to distance themselves from them. She has one friend that kind of belatedly tries to help her, but to no avail, that used to work with her. But it is beautifully shot, and I love the acting. I loved Morfydd Clark and Jennifer Ehle.
Ehle, excellent.
Ehle I thought she was brilliant in this role, because she has to, on one hand, you have sympathy for her because of her health condition, but on the other hand, she's such a shit to Maud, even though, you might even be able to argue that Maud is open to it, so anyway, I liked it a lot. And, where else are you going to get orgasmic spiritual experiences on film?
Yes. Yeah. She's a bit euphoric with her pious.
She is.
Uncomfortably so.
Yeah. I think the Amanda character that you were mentioning is best described at the beginning of the film by the one nurse that's leaving. That she's a bit of a cunt. She lives up to that, and
that's interesting. See, I didn't see that at all.
Well, I thought I saw it. But it was entertaining way, right? It wasn't like this malicious way. It's just like, I don't know, pompous, arrogant way, or the last remnants of that in her, maybe. But anyway, I enjoyed this film. But to me, I found it to be more about mental illness than it was. I mean, even though the religious part of it is really, it's very much about her, just struggling with reality. Period. Through this particular avenue. And what's interesting is how different events shape her demeanor, like at the party, or when she went to talk to the second nurse, and she's all acting one way until a certain amount, until a certain something gets said, and then she turns on a dime, and then when she just totally loses it, it just goes all out, and then you have no idea what you're looking at. You're cross between reality and imagination, and so it's not a typical horror film in many ways, but it definitely explores some horrific themes and elements and visuals along the way, and I found it quite fascinating. I don't know how else to describe the movie other than fascinating. I was rather riveted by it. I still don't know if I like it or not, though.
So let me just say, the woman she's taking care of is not at all I don't want to say the word because of
Well,
YouTube,
you
but
can
a
say
C
it,
word.
in the English context, and not the American context. They use it like we use bitch.
Oh, so bitch. I can say bitch. Is that what you're
Sure,
saying?
sure.
Okay.
Well,
Okay. So she's not a bitch. Here's the thing. How dare this woman come into her house who is her hospice caregiver, taking care of her, and then she has the nerve to tell her girlfriend to leave her alone? She's lucky that's all she said to Maud. F that. Who did Maud think she was? It's funny to me. She was rather nice to her, even when she has her like experience. She's even, oh, I felt it too. She was like, oh, that's cute. She wasn't mean to her at all. But don't tell her girlfriend to go. What? Oh, hell no. Okay, so see, do you understand? Like, she deserved.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, but she
Like,
was very condescending the entire time before
well,
that.
because Maud is kind of deserves it.
Well, and
Well,
from
but
Maud's point of view, though, she's trying to save her. I mean, this is like a mission for her.
Well, but evidently she's also. I mean, that's the reason the other nurse left too. You know, I mean, I think she does seem to be a very manipulative person. You know,
Oh, I agree with that
and that's
completely.
mainly because of her coming from this sort of artsy world where she was a big thing, and so, and she has her own sort of demons to deal with. I mean, for me, I mean, first of all, there's some really beautiful cinematography going on in this film with the
Yeah.
use of light and darkness and framing, but also, I mean, if you think about it, like in the history of religion back in the day, if you had mental illness, they thought you were possessed by demons, and this is almost like the flip of that, where you have somebody who probably their mental illness was getting out of whack or whatever, and they sort of embrace religion for the first time, and then it almost like becomes the flip of that, to where they hear voices and all these things, and so you could sort of see how somebody with mental illness can sort of like, hey, I mean, God, you know, because how many times you have people that have like, you know, schizophrenia or something, they see demons or they hear God talking to them, telling them to do this or that, and so you have that, and you have almost like this burgeoning mental illness as it goes on, to where it's also like things in the Bible where you're tested, like Job. You know, one minute you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing as a Christian, next minute you're doing all these horrible things because you feel like that's what you deserve, or you're harming yourself. So there's that self-flagellation part of it as well. So I think it sort of it throws into that, and I don't think it's I can understand. I could probably understand how some people might see sacrilegious aspects of it. To me, I just see it as somebody who has mental illness and they embrace religion, and that sort of like created all these visions and stuff because of that throughout the film. And I think that's a fascinating journey that we're taking on as this woman who feels like, also as somebody who deals with social anxiety. I think the scenes where she goes into the bars and stuff is a very good example of social anxiety, how you don't know how to react around people, and sometimes you can only maybe be around one person at a time. So there's that wonderful visual representation of that, of her having to deal with people and her mental illness sort of like causing a lot of issues with that.
So what lends credence to the whole mental illness is the very, very, very end. And I don't mean the very end when you see what's happening, but you know, when it changed at the very end. It's obvious that it's mental illness because that's a snapback into reality and what's really happening. So I'm glad that the writer and director gave us that insight to know for sure. I feel like that's where you know for sure what's happening.
Doesn't take much,
you know?
No, for sure. Right?
No, it was brilliant. It's like show, don't tell, you know, because, you know, you see all these things and you're like, is it or isn't it? And then you see that and it's like, oh.
Well,
ouch.
you see early aspects of that early on during a sex scene. But
oh yeah.
but yeah, I mean, so you realize that a lot of stuff she's seeing isn't probably real, but it's real to her, and it sort of gives those rose-tinted glasses, those mental illness rose-tinted glasses that make you think you're doing what's right when ultimately it's totally different story.
Do you think that was a flashback? I wasn't sure about that. Like, because remember, she apparently had lost her nursing job for some reason. We don't really know for sure what, but
I think part of it was a flashback, and then part of it was sort of, you know, illusions based on it. Anyway,
I know we just keep
everybody's
talking.
gone quiet. Like,
I'm like,
They're
okay,
like-
guys.
the other ones are like, what kind of
Chime in
shitty things
whenever
can we
you
say
want.
about this film now?
Yeah. So I gotta find out, Dave. Did you see any of this? Did you catch any of what we're talking about, or did you just kind of like?
I seen all of it. I just didn't give a shit about it.
Okay.
It was obvious from the get go that she was crazy as a bag full of shit, and there's like, you know, who really gives a shit what happens to her then? So it was what it was. It's not. This isn't the first movie to portray someone with mental illness trying to seek solace through religion and failing miserably at it. This was just a different story, a different take on that.
Yeah, that's true. Jeff, any words of wisdom you want to impart on this film? Are we missing any points here, or anything that?
No,
comes to
I
mind?
don't think so. I don't think so. What I'm hearing from you, Chris, and Crystal are pretty much what I was thinking.
You weren't thinking about the bag of shit things, and
I wasn't. I was thinking Dave's going to think this is a bad.
I knew Dave wasn't going to like this movie. When I was watching it, I was like, ooh.
In some ways, it's almost like a religious Brazil in parts, just to how the religious aspect of it, how you're imagining one thing.
No, I think that visually this movie is incredible at times. It especially when they blur that line, because it's never until the very end. It's never so black and white, right? It's always gray with where the reality and the insanity begin. Although the extremes you get, but where does it start? When does it stop? Because you see things, fall off the counter. But is that just because it fell off the counter, or is there something there, talking to her? And then, we do hear the voice. That's kind of crazy. And then, there's the visual representations that you see in the trailer that, start making you wonder. There was a moment when I was like, oh crap, is that where we're going? And then, no, you got me. That's not where we're going.
Yeah, I was teeter-tottering at points too, because I was like, well, maybe
it could be a twist, right? Like, you let me down this road. Are you going to pull the rug out from under me? No, you just.
Well, I think when God works through cockroaches, usually that's a good example of something not good.
But it could also have been that it wasn't God talking to her.
Right.
Well, that's what I kept thinking too.
Yeah, I was like, that's what I was. I was like, ooh, maybe
as the devil, the devil works in his own mysterious ways to trick you into thinking you're doing something. Yeah. And so I kind of saw that as well, because it almost felt like, if the devil could twist your religiousness, like instead of religious epiphanies, you have religious orgasms. It sort of kind of perverts that sort of love for Jesus and religion or whatever. Like, ooh, that. I was very as a growing up a Southern Baptist, I was very uncomfortable during those scenes, because I was like, yeah, there's being close to God, and there's that.
Being one with God. Yeah, because it felt more like what you would associate with like the what many people think of like the Salem witches, right? Not that that's really what they are, but the stereotypical one where they're out in the woods writhing in ecstasy, right? And so it does kind of bring that kind of thought into your head when it's happening. And then of course Amanda's just playing along. She's like, "Yeah, I'll do this. This is kind of fun." but she said she has the best line in the whole movie, and she goes, "Dying is so dull."
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, and I think that's what makes her an interesting character that you don't necessarily see in a lot of films that involve people that are dying. They're having hospice workers and stuff because they're slowly, disintegrating or whatever. And so with her, she's still trying to sort of live that free life, but also she's also at that point where she's, she also realizes the finite limited time that she has, and so and that there's nothing for her. There's nothing after that. So yeah, there's always that sort of interesting two different worlds she's having to deal with. And I think the actress who played that did a really great job of showing those both sides of her character throughout the film.
Yeah, yeah. All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let's give our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. But before we do, if you're still listening, we want to thank you for hanging out with us. We hope you're enjoying this review and many other reviews we have on the channel. If you want to help us out, the easiest way to do so, and it really does help us out, is to subscribe or share with a friend. We'd love to hear, yeah, down there, around there. We'd love to hear your comments down below, and we want to take a quick moment to thank our friends over at Patreon, because without their help, we wouldn't be able to do not only the Gruesome Magazine podcast, but Horror News Radio, Decades of Horror, and Heroes and Droids. So thank you all so very much. Let's get into this. And Christopher, you are up first, sir. What is your final thoughts, your score, and favorite scene?
I really love this film, and going into it, to be honest, I wasn't sure how I was going to react to it, because the trailers made it seem like it could possibly be this sort of really dark and twisted journey. It has its dark and twisted elements, but I think it also goes into a lot of themes of religion, how sometimes people's religious fervor is less based on them actually being religious, and a little bit sometimes with evil elements to it, and also just how mental illness can sometimes pervert certain things and make you think you're doing something good when you're not. And I think the two main actresses in this, I think, do such a wonderful job portraying their characters. The cinematography is amazing in scenes. I just some really beautiful moments. The use of the camera, movement of the camera, the framing, the use of darkness in certain scenes. Like, I mean, there's a wonderful scene where they give the woman a birthday cake, and the main actress, she's like just basically sitting in the shadows, and you could, it's sort of like I love it when the visuals and could sort of tie into the mental problems of the main character. When you can sort of show that through visuals instead of her coming out and saying, I don't like this. I think it's, it's definitely very artsy, a little too artsy for Dave, but I can understand that. I really think it's a wonderful first film for the director. I really want to see what she does next. Has some amazing performances, and I'm glad that I got to see it. It's visually, I was really impressed by a lot of the shots in this film. For rating, I'll give it a 4.5 out of 5. I really enjoyed this film.
Nice.
I really enjoyed it, and I am one of those people where some style is over substance for me sometimes, and I think visually there's the cinematography is out of this world in certain parts, and I think that ties into my favorite scene, the scene where she's her religious floating moment.
Oh yeah,
with fireworks outside.
Oh yeah,
and it's such a beautifully shot moment where you have the hecticness of and her just like almost having a seizure, almost what would happen if somebody's possessed by a devil, but then it turns into this sort of almost like religious moment as well, and just how it's all framed and stuff, and how that whole scene, how it's orchestrated, I think is visually stunning. And there's scenes like that throughout, even when it's just simple slow scenes, there's like these visual interesting things that really pop up that I really enjoyed and really impressed me, and it's one of those films where I write it down, and then sometimes it sort of makes me want to do better shots of my own stuff after seeing stuff like this. So yeah, nice. I really enjoyed it.
Nice. All right, Crystal, you're up next. Your final thoughts, your score, and favorite scene.
Okay. I really liked it too. I didn't think Dave was going to hate it as much as he did, though. So now I'm a little scared to like be like, oh, I think if you're gonna like it. Maybe not, but I liked it, and I thought it was really cool. And I have to agree, of course, it's beautifully shot, and I think it hits on a lot of points as far as, like she's new to this religion, and I don't know if you've ever been around church people. When they first get religion, they tend to get a fire. But that'll make sense when you watch a movie. But like they have this fire, and then they're always very, they just seem to go gung ho, and so you can kind of blame some of it on that, but it's not really that, unfortunately, for her sake. Anywho, I liked it. I think it's cool. I'm gonna give it. I keep going between a 4 and a 3.75 and a 4. I think I'm gonna. Ooh, it's so hard. I think I'm gonna give it a 4.
Do it! Yay!
Yeah, I think it's deserving of it. I mean, there's nothing that I can see that just really doesn't deserve it. I mean, there's some things. Yeah, it's a little slow at points. It's a little this, but it's worth it. It is a little bit artsy fartsy. I don't know. Jeff's done this to me. It's all Jeff's fault. So that's who I blame. Yeah. My favorite scene is oh God. Okay, I have to admit, it did mess me up a little bit when she goes back to the house for the confrontation, and when she bucks up to her, when there's a little transformation, I actually got a little messed up there. I guess because it was so unexpected for me. I went, oh, okay.
You're talking about Amanda?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. It surprised me. And I know that it's nothing new that was done. We've seen it before, but I just wasn't ready for it. So that was fun.
Yeah.
I don't usually get a little jumpy.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I agree with you 100%. Yep.
Mm.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your hats. Dave, Dreher!
I've already called it an abortion, so I'm not sure much more I can go through.
No, you might have.
I have to. I mean, seriously though, there is no denying what Christopher and Crystal are saying. I mean, technically, it's a beautifully shot, wonderfully acted movie. So because of that, I'm gonna have to give it a 2.5. But I did not like this movie. That's nothing against the technical aspect of it. It just was a boring story that kind of uses religion as a crutch for this woman to do horrible, unspeakable things, and it just wasn't of interest to me. Favorite scene though was actually just a pretty simple effects thing, but it looked good. It was very impressive. It's a scene where she's kind of picking the skin off of her hand. That whole kind of elongated scene of her just kind of peeling her skin off. It looked really good. I actually went back and watched it a couple more times just to see, if they were using an appliance or if it was CGI. And I'm almost positive it was practical. And it looked good. Just the elasticity of the skin and stuff. It almost looked like she was actually peeling her own goddamn skin off her hand. Yeah. So that little quick moment impressed me a bit. But yeah, this, this is one of those ones that is borderline for me, even borderline a horror movie, because it's I don't know what it is, but I don't classify this as a horror film.
Okay. Well,
now I'm doing the Christopher. What? Wait, what? You had me up until.
All right, Jeff Mohr, go ahead. It's your turn. Final thoughts, score, favorite scene.
Well, Dave said pretty much everything I was going to say. I like this, and I'm waffling a bit on the score as well. But I wrote down 4, so I'm going to give it a 4. I am impressed with the direction and the technical aspects and the acting. And there are some scenes in there. For me, the thing that saves it is that final, I don't know what you call it, this final segment starting with starting in the house and then ending up where it ends up. Those things just like they took me aback. And I don't know if that's what Christopher was talking about, but I know I jerked up in my chair at the one scene, and then even the final scene was I don't know, shocking to me. I guess it was beautiful at once, and then it was
Yes, the outfit, yeah.
It was gorgeous and beautiful and ascendant, and then boom. So anyway, another one spoiled the hell out of this.
No, I don't think anyone will get.
So I don't know if did I say, but that's, to me, that's what saved it. But I'm going to pick as my favorite scene.
Oh, I thought that was it.
I know.
Well, it is. Okay, I'll take that.
I mean, I'm like, that's like.
But I was going to take.
Epic.
I was going to take the orgasmic spiritual experience just
Yeah,
because
you could do that. You could do that.
That's when I knew something wasn't right.
Yeah.
You know what? It's so funny. I don't think that's that weird.
Of course.
Well, that's you, Crystal.
Yeah.
That's just you.
Yeah, she's thinking, well, that was Tuesday. All right. So I enjoyed this film, but I'm not really too far from Dave's camp. I don't know if I 100% liked it. I'm still deciding. But really what it comes down to is the two lead actresses are phenomenal in this, and you're glued to them, especially when they're together. I think when they're together, there's stuff going on that isn't necessarily in the dialogue. It's in their interactions, how they're looking at each other, how they're filmed together. So it's a complicated film, actually, even though it feels, we may have described it as being rather simple in its approach, but there's a lot kind of under the, behind the scenes going on, or underneath in layers. There's layers, right? We're going back to that Shrek thing. Layers. I had 3.75, so that's where I'm going to stick with it. I think that's about right. I feel like, a couple more of like the levitation scenes, and it could have easily been a little bit more up my alley. It just kind of waited its time. It took its time getting to that element. But I didn't necessarily not enjoy getting, the time spent getting there. So I'm kind of torn in that respect, but yeah, I'm just going to shut up and leave it at that. And my favorite scene, is, well, I was good. I had my head written down the Amanda scene on the bed, but because that was quite something.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things. I could go with the very ending, but I think that's kind of where Dave's going, or not Dave, but with Jeff. So I'm going to go with we hear her throughout the film talk, say that she hears God. Of course, that makes your ears wiggle. Okay. We trust you. But that, because she's called Saint and Maud and a Savior, well, that kind of comes with the territory, don't it? So it gets you kind of thinking in some respects, if you're wired in that way. And which Catholic background tend to have a little bit of that stored up back in the day, right? So anyway, so we hear her talking about that she could hear him, and then as it, Dave's bag of shit hits the fan, we hear it, and I thought that was creepy.
Oh yeah, that was.
And it's Welch, right?
I forgot about that.
Right, and and it's like, okay, sweetheart, no, that isn't. No, stop. That's not who you think it is. Man, oh yeah, close that door. But at the same time, it was kind of, it makes you think like, oh crap, is it? I think we're supposed to suspect that this is what she's hearing in her head, but could she really be doing it? And we're going to get pulled, and that kind of grew at that point, to the point when the other scene that I'm talking about reared its head, and that really kind of kind of was creepy. And I can see where people that could really freak people out. And then, except Dave. So there you go.
I thought the sex scene was pretty.
Which one?
Well,
the
I
on the
guess-
bed
On the bed with the
Yeah.
guy.
when she has that vision. I literally like. It threw me because I
Oh,
was
you
like, I
thought
was
maybe
not
she had done that? Okay.
Well, yeah, at first, but it was so like graphic.
It was.
Now it was like, whoa,
I was like,
that came out of
whoa.
nowhere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then it was followed up with a scene that kind of made you go, ooh,
Well, yeah.
oh, dude, ooh,
Well,
ooh.
Things that make you go. "Ew."
I know, it's kind of
she's not a saint, okay?
no. All right, so there you go. That's
Yeah.
our review of Saint Maud, which is streaming now on Hulu and I think on Amazon Prime as well. Check it out and let us know what you think in the comments down below. Christopher, thank you for joining us for this very
Yay.
special episode.
Yeah, Chris.
Well, thanks for letting me join. You know, just so
yeah.
I can hear Dave's wonderful opinion.
Yes.
You guys make me watch this shit. You know you're gonna.
Well, I'm just glad I'm on the positive side, considering some people have called me the Gene Siskel of Heroes and Troy. So,
Yeah.
I'm just glad to be on the positive side for once.
Yeah. For every Saint Maud I give Dave, it's a. What is the film that I give you all the time? What is it? Oh crap! I'm totally brain farting on the joke. Not going to work. Not going to work when you brain fart on a joke.
I don't know where your head's either, so I can't help you out. Sorry.
I was going to
I
say
know. I'm like,
Escape Room 2, but that's all right. It doesn't matter now.
Okay.
Let's say goodnight and get the hell out of here.
oh yeah.
Right.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.